And can you tell me a little bit about the book you've been working on for the last couple years?
Yes. Susan has been wanting me to talk, and all of a sudden it occurred to me in this new book, which is a sort of a high-end romance that they're now calling women's fiction, that I'm creating this perfect family that I never had. It's about a young Hawaiian overachiever who goes to Stanford Law School, marries a rich guy in San Francisco, and for reasons that the marriage falls apart, she moves back home to this Hawaiian family that takes her in. And part of it is all that I admire about Hawaiians from living here in Hawaii. And I just thought about talking over our childhoods with Susan, how hard it was for me to grow up with mental illness in the house. To a certain extent, Susan was growing up with alcoholism that became more and more damaging. In my case, my mother was hospitalized for mental illness. My father was very checked out, and in those days they called it melancholia. And I was farmed out to the relatives, my father's relatives, who lived on farms and had big families, and you had to eat everything on your plate. And I remember living on a chicken farm when I was in 5th grade and going out through the farms and down into these little groves and forests with streams and being there all day. And then going to this school with farmer type kids. And I had to walk very far. I also, the teacher believed in everybody learning math, but I'd been switched around so many times to different families, including Susan's mom and dad, and different schools, that I missed fractions. And this woman would keep everybody in who didn't get everything right. And I would sit there until 5 o'clock when she wanted to go home, and not figuring out anything about fractions. And then I would walk home in the dark and in the cold to the chicken farm. And I've written a short story about this that I should pull out, but about mental illness. And now, after all the years of growing up and being a mother and a grandmother and a teacher and an administrator for so many years, I finally woke up to the fact that my job is to get up in the morning and come through love. I couldn't sort out the religious aspects of it, and so much of it really turned me off, especially people interpreting little pieces of the Bible that they wanted to inflict on everybody else, and not all of it. So I finally learned that I get up in the morning and come through love. And I was able to do a pretty good job of that most of the time. It helps to be working with children because a lot of them need a lot of love, or sometimes a few of them need a whole lot of love, and my own people that are around me. But it took me years to get there. So I would say that's probably my philosophy of life and work. And we have people like that in my book.
And did you struggle with depression yourself earlier on?
I definitely did, yeah, and some bad times, and then snapped back. You know, I think depression can come and go.
And you seem to have found a place of balance for yourself in your life here in Hawaii and working with children.
Yes.
How do you have any tools that you use in particular to sort of keep yourself on the happy side of life?
Well, definitely I've learned from this old book that I hope is still in print about raising children, this guy Chaim Ganot, back in the 1950s. And we still give it to everybody who gets pregnant. But one of the best things I ever learned was to use I messages instead of you messages. And that means that if the room is this great big mess, you say, I am perturbed that this, it used to be typewriters, his typewriter is on the floor and there's some sandwiches there. You know, I'm concerned about that. And as an administrator who often had to make some really tough calls, I was able to use this almost every day of my life. And I'm doing it right now with a bunch of kids in a reading workshop.
And you've been an avid exerciser for a long time too, haven't you?
Well, I read what we're supposed to do and look at all the research, and it's that you're supposed to walk every day for at least 30 minutes. There's an argument about that, where you're out of breath. And I guess years and years ago, when we were back in Ocean Beach and I hurt my back, I learned how to stretch every morning from physical therapy, because you're supposed to do that too. And then the other thing is weightlifting 2 or 3 times a week. So if that's going to keep me healthy, I'm okay to do it.
And what about your diet? Have you made any changes in that way?
Just very slowly. We've just gotten to Michael Pollan. Eat food, mostly plants, not a lot.
Mm. And can you tell me a little bit about the children that you work with?
Yeah, right now I'm in a school, while my granddaughter is in one of the most prestigious schools in the nation, right down the block. I'm with a school in which 77% or so are indigent and immigrant from all over the place. And so what we're finding, the teachers also are in a sort of an old-fashioned mindset of everybody does the workbook. It doesn't matter if you're in 2nd grade and you're reading at 6th grade level, or if you can't read at all. Everybody does the same workbook. And this is something that I've done a lot of presentations on, how you can have a reading workshop and a writing workshop where kids are on their own level. We managed to do that at Kamehameha, the school that I worked with the wonderful 1st grade teachers. So to see some of that is very sad. And the art teacher and I are working with the kids right now, and they're writing wonderful poems. I mean, somebody has to help them to spell it correctly. I've already told them, don't worry, English is just very screwed up in your spelling, and every time I write F-O-U-R, I say C. How crazy that is, but we have to do it. And so the kids are wonderful. The school is very dysfunctional. But the kids are just wonderful. I started a gifted class for the high-end kids in 5th grade after looking at their test scores and other things. And then there are 3 statewide poetry contests. And in my little school, all 3 of my 5th graders won. And they got to present in audiences of many, many people. And one of them, interestingly, was the kid that I thought was most likely to wind up in the penitentiary. His teacher and I, totally out of control. But he actually wanted to write a poem, while some of the other freaked out kids in that particular 5th grade just went around punching each other and that sort of thing.
And what was his poem about?
His poem was about a bully. And he was one of the school's main bullies, which is really interesting, but he describes being a bully. I could read you a couple, but I don't think I have any home. That's too bad.